thank you for returning. My name is Jeff Staten, and this is the Spirit of Sankofa. Today, we're going to take on the weighty subject of hatred, and we're going to focus on racism. How do you love someone that hates you? Now, the Bible is clear as to what your responsibility is as it relates to your enemies. It's clear. But it's one thing to love someone that has conducted against you some minor offense that in the grand scheme of things could be considered a minor offense. Someone that lied on you, someone that stole from you, right? It's easy to love those type of enemies. But how do you love a person that doesn't think you're human? How do you love a person that doesn't see any value in you whatsoever? How do you love someone that will do you harm at any given moment? Well, let's talk about it. Let's get started. Racism. How do you love someone that hates you? One love. So let's explain hatred for a minute. All right, let's get some idea exactly what hatred is. And I gotta tell you, it's not an easy task, right? You will find very few psychiatrists, psychologists, behavioral scientists that will have a 100% agreement as to what hatred really is, right? Hatred is one of those topics that literally morphs into something else depending on which angle you're trying to study it, right? Depending on the angle at which you try to approach it, hatred will become something else, right? It's kind of like, all right, well, I'm looking at it from this standpoint, and that kind of sounds like rage. And I'm looking at it from this standpoint, that sounds like just pure anger, right? So there's a gradation of anger, and at what point do you stop? And that's hatred, right? And no one can really say at what point does hatred morph into just being sad, all that good stuff, right? So it's really difficult to pinpoint. But there are some consensus. There are some areas in which scientists agree. And one is that hatred is an extreme emotion. It's the extreme emotion that a human being has. Hatred will have you doing things that you cannot imagine yourself doing, right? Hatred is that farthest emotion in the farthest region of your brain, of your ability to have emotion, that farthest region, right? Right before you blank out and you wake up in the police department with 3 police officers asking you, do you remember hitting those people over the head with a bottle, right? It's that farthest region right before Bruce Banner becomes the Hulk, right? It is an extreme emotions. Fortunately for us as human beings, we have these catch switches for us that keeps us from visiting the extreme a lot, right? And one of those catch switches and protections is shame. We don't do a lot of things that we want to do sometimes because we don't want to seem bad to ourselves. We don't want to disappoint ourselves. So shame is that kind of internal protection for us that keeps us from being bad people. And then you have anger. Anger is that outward facing protection, right? Your anger displays to people that, okay, maybe I should leave them alone. Anger kind of indicates that it's possibly time to leave. And because these people leave, it disallows you from doing things that you don't want to do. It disallows you from to enter into the extreme, right? But what happens is hatred tears all that down. It removes all of your boundaries, right? When you reach the level of hatred, there's no shame. There's nothing that you would do that would make you upset. You don't mind hurting someone. Hurting someone extremely doesn't upset you about yourself. When you're done, you're going to go back and be like, I told him to leave me alone. I told him to leave me alone. And there's no shame, right? And then the anger part is that you've reached the level of anger so much that the person doesn't have to come towards you. You are going toward them, right? So hatred removes all boundaries and enables you to do the extreme without really caring. So it's really an extreme emotion. But what happens is in love, not love, but the strange part, and it's funny that I said love, because some study says that hatred and love are the same thing, right? It's just mirror images of another. It's really interesting. But scientists say that hatred is just the expression of fear. And I don't care who it is. I don't care how big they are. I don't care how intimidating they are. I don't care how powerful they may be. I don't care how much they're yelling in your face. I don't care how much they're punching you in your face. A person in hatred is a person in fear. Think of the people hating you right now. All the people that you believe hate you. And if it's true that they hate you, each one of them are in fear. Now, you don't want to misconstrue their fear as timidness, as timidity, because they will hurt you. Again, they are on the farthest region of their emotions, and they will hurt you. So fear, you express fear in different ways, and hatred is one of them. And their hatred is fueled by a few things, one of which is jealousy and envy. They are jealous of you. They're envious of you. They're jealous and envious of your accomplishments. Right? More so the steps you took to become successful. Right? Because they understand that you sacrificed. They understand that you went through a lot, that you had nothing, that you didn't know at some point in your journey what to do, how to do. They understand that you were crying. They understand that you were asking for help a lot, right? And it is those hardships that frighten them, that they are unwilling to go through to reach their success. And instead of dealing with that fear of hardship, they instead choose to hate you for being something that they want to be. Secondly, their hatred of you is fueled by something that you did or something that they perceived you doing. Hatred often comes because the hater perceives that you've crossed some moral boundary that they hold dear in their heart and in their mind. And because you crossed it and possibly got away with it, they hate you, right? Sit down with any white supremacist and you ask them, okay, why do you hate black people? You'll find that they will list a whole bunch of morals that they believe that we don't have. They're upset with our supposed affinity for breaking the law, how untrustworthy we are, how lazy we are, how we are unwilling to take care of our family, how we want handouts and never want to work for it. All of these are morals in their head, and because we cross them or neglect them, they hate us. Well, why do black people hate white people? Well, black people believe that white people crossed a boundary, a moral boundary in slavery. They believe that the murdering of millions of African Americans crossed a boundary. And because white people crossed that boundary, you have black people that hate white people. So what does that mean, man? What does that mean to you and for you? What does that mean that you must do as a Christian, as a people that walks by faith and not by sight? What does that mean to you? Well, the Bible is clear about that. If there's anything in the Bible more clear about your responsibility toward the people that hate you and toward people that you hate, I don't know what it is. It is perfectly clear. Let's look at it. Let's look at a verse really quickly and see what the Bible says about you and people that hate you. Let's look at Matthew, the 5th chapter. Matthew, the 5th chapter, the 44th verse. And it reads as follows. But I say unto you, love your enemy. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you. Listen, it doesn't get any clearer. It doesn't get any clearer at all what your responsibility is. You should love your enemies. And believe you me, I would love to be able to come on and make this video and say to you, hey, guess what? You know that love that we've been talking about as it relates to us loving our enemies? It's not the love you think of. I would love to be able to come out and say that, but I can't. I can't. That love in that verse is exactly the love you're thinking of. The exact love you were thinking of. The most conservative translation of that word love that I could find is having no ill will. At the very least, as it relates to the people that you hate, as it relates to the people that you consider your enemies, you should have no ill will. And believe me, I didn't stop there. I looked at the word enemy also, because, okay, maybe Jesus is talking about some other kind of enemy. Maybe my concept of enemies and the Lord's concept of enemies told two different things. No. That word enemy is exactly what you think it is. Enemy. In this verse, and in most verses when you find the word enemy, it means a person that opposes you with hostility, and a person that opposes your God with hostility. That's your enemy. So I ask myself, okay, a person that opposes me with hostility, does a racist person fall in that category? It does. They do. They oppose me with hostility. Well, that's my enemy. And this verse is clear as to what you should do concerning your enemies. You should have no ill will toward them. deep. How is that possible? And believe me, this is something difficult for me because of my history. I come from a place where there's a school of thought that these types of verses are purposely placed in the Bible to make African Americans passive. There's a school of thought and a group of people who believe that this was placed in there, especially during slavery, because the Bible was used to justify slavery, right? And these verses were placed in the Bible to make slaves more subdued, to make sure that they don't rebel or run away. So I come from that type of history that questions even the Bible concerning this. So it's tough for me to understand. It's tough for me to explain. But it's clear as day. You should have no ill will toward the people that oppose you with hostility. Well, how do we do that, man? How is that possible? How is it possible for me to have no ill will to someone that has extreme ill will toward me, toward a person that would harm me if given the chance? There are white supremacists out there that would hang you right now, harm you right now, simply because you are an African American person, right? How in the world am I supposed to have no ill will toward people like that? Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it for a minute. Turn with me, please, to John, the 8th chapter. John, the 8th chapter, we're going to start at the 4th verse, and we're going to end at the 7th verse. John 8, 4 through 7 in the King James Version, and it reads as follows. They say unto him, Master, they're talking to Jesus, this woman was taken in adultery, in the very act. Now Moses in the law commands us that such should be stoned. But what sayest thou? They said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down, with his finger wrote on the ground, as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone. He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone. Now, this verse is a perfect example of hatred and love. Perfect. If there was a play on Broadway produced and called Love, that's the way it would happen. That's what the playwriter would write, that story, right? And all the components are there. Every component is there, man. Here you have the hated, this woman, right? And the haters. This woman was hated. Why? Because she crossed a moral boundary. She was an adulteress, right? And that was something that these people severely disliked. And they had hatred toward her, and so much hatred that they were going to kill this woman in the streets. And not some mercy death either. They weren't just going to give her some poison and let her go somewhere and fall asleep and die. No, they were going to stone this woman. They were going to bludgeon this woman until she ceased to exist. And that's hatred, man. That's rage. That's that far region of concern or lack thereof. Yeah? These people were so angry with this woman that they were going to bludgeon her to death. That's what hatred does. It causes you to do extreme things. But Jesus gave them the method to achieve love in that situation. Jesus gave them the way to achieve love, even though they really hated this woman. And in this, he's also giving you the method to achieve love with someone that hates you and someone you hate. Jesus said to them, "He that hath no sin, cast the first stone." Now, how do you know you are without sin? You know that you are without sin by stopping what you're doing for a second and page through the crap in your life. Like, wow, I did do that. Woo, I did that 5 times. How did I survive? Right? You have to stop for a minute and look at yourself. Jesus instructed these people, in order for you to be able to love this woman, you have to first be introspective. Anytime you look at yourself and take survey of yourself, that's called introspection. So the way to love a person that you hate and to love a person that hates you, you have to first look at the sin or the mistakes, the wrongdoings, the unreasonable actions and unreasonable words that you have. And once you recognize that you have those things, it connects you to the wrongdoing of the hated. And when these people were involved in introspection, when they looked at themselves and their wrongdoings, bricks started falling all over the place. And when Jesus lifted his head, he saw no one there. And he was being kind of facetious too, and said to the woman, "Okay, where did your accusers go?" It is through looking at yourself, finding your shortcomings, looking at yourself, finding areas in yourself where you are imperfect. And when you find your imperfection, you are at that point in understanding, in common ground with the person you hate. Your imperfections connects with someone else's imperfection. And the way to connect with their imperfection, you must find common ground with them. There must be achieved some commonality with the people that hate you. Well, Jeff, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I can't achieve common ground with this person. This person is a child molester. How in the world do I find common ground with someone like that? Well, the verse didn't say find an exact match. The verse says he without sin. It didn't specify sins. It didn't delineate sins. It just said he without sin. He without imperfection. He that doesn't have wrongdoings. He that doesn't have irrational thought. He that doesn't sometime feel the same way that this person is acting. He that doesn't have that, throw the rock, throw the brick. And it's through introspection, it's through achieving this common ground, mental, emotional common ground, will you be able to love or at least have no ill will toward the person that you hate or the person that hates you. Finding common ground is the step. Let's look at something else that kind of speaks to that. Look at Matthew. Let's read Matthew, the 22nd verse, the 22nd chapter, I'm sorry, and the 36th verse. Matthew 22, 36 through 40. And it reads as follows. Master, talking to Jesus, which is the great commandment in the law? Jesus said unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. A better way to translate this verse, is to love thy neighbor as if it was you. Love someone as if it was you. And that is another method of introspection. Looking at yourself as it relates to someone else. Your achievement of love in this Bible always reflects to you first looking at yourself. And the only way that you're going to be able to love these people is for you to take survey of yourself, find the imperfection in you, find your shortcomings. And once that is achieved, you achieve the same level as the person that you hate and the person that hates you. Because what hate does, it rises you, it lifts you above people. And you're looking down at them. But when you look in yourself and find common ground, find your imperfections, it lowers you to eye level to these people. And it's at eye level can you achieve love. It is at eye level can you understand what these people are going through. You have to achieve common ground with these people. What is it that a white supremacist wants, right? What is it that that is their issue, right? They are extremely, profoundly loving their heritage. They want to preserve their heritage come what may. In their minds, they created the world or had some pertinent influence in creating it. Every important aspect of civilization, they believe that they influenced it. They had some hand in creating it. Medicine, all technology, the white supremacists believe that they had some hand in creating it all, right? And it's your place as a person seeking to love to understand that they are just trying to protect their heritage, something that they hold precious. At the core of what they're doing, at the core of their belief, they are trying to protect something that they feel that they've created. And you have to understand that. You have to understand that. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to historically check it. You don't want to fact check a supremacist, a white supremacist, a racist. You don't throw logic into hatred, right? Logic, people get even more angry when you throw logic when they're being illogical, right? It is not your place to intellectually understand, to believe, or for it to be historically true for you to achieve love. All you have to do is understand it. Find a common ground. Okay, these people are protecting something that they believe they've created, something that they hold dear in their heart. Okay, what is it in my life that I hold that so dear? What have I created that I hold so dear that I would protect and really disdain anybody that would try to taint it or destroy it? And once you find that common ground, with them. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I wouldn't want anybody destroying my heritage either. I don't want anyone saying untrue things about my heritage either. I don't want any other people to come in and destroy what my ancestors created either. And because I get it and I understand it, I've looked in myself and found a common ground. And because I found a common ground, I can achieve the level of love such that there's no ill will for me, for that person. There's no ill will for me, for them. That's not easy, to be honest. It's not easy, to be honest, because we are looking apples to apples. You don't have to find hatred in you to find common ground with these hate-filled people. But you have to find something in you that's similar to them, that's like them. You may not hate someone, but there may be some irrational beliefs in you about some things, right? You may dislike Baptists, right? You may dislike another church because their praise and worship is different from yours. You may dislike another church because their music is different from yours. You may dislike this church because their preacher preaches different from yours, or they wear different clothing in their church, or they don't speak in tongues, or they don't lay hands, or they don't baptize in the name of Jesus. And once you find your reasons for disliking someone, or not going to their church, or not feeling comfortable around these people, not liking their songs, you know what I mean? Once you found common ground, well, I have that irrational belief in my heart. Well, I understand it. I get it. I get it. I get what they're talking about. And that's what you have to achieve. You have to achieve the I get it moment. And once you achieve the I get it moment, you're able to have no ill will. Okay? Now, understand, achieving the I get it moment and achieving the ability to have no ill will does not mean, and I want you to hear this with your whole ear, achieving love does not mean that you should allow these people to harm you or your family. Walking in love doesn't mean that you should be a rug. It does not. It does not. Because you walk in love doesn't mean that if these people come into your church and start shooting, that you shouldn't stop him and try to shoot back. Walking in love doesn't mean that if you're walking in the park and some lady approaches you, that you shouldn't in some way defend yourself. Walking in love doesn't mean that if you're trying to enter your apartment complex and some crazy lady will not allow you in your apartment complex. Walking in love doesn't mean you should not push that lady aside to enter your home. Walking in love doesn't mean because you are an African American delivery driver and some idiot is stopping you, that you shouldn't do anything, that you shouldn't do anything to protect yourself. No. Walking in love means you understand their anger. I understand it. I have no ill will toward him. But if he tries me, he's going to get these hands. That's still love. Walking in love doesn't mean that you shouldn't prosecute the person that raped you. That you, for some reason, should throw out the lawsuit altogether. No, you should prosecute him or her to the extent of the law. And if the extent of the law is death for some reason, you should participate in that. You should allow him or her to die. That is still love. You're protecting yourself is natural. You were born with that tendency to protect yourself. So you're not stepping out of love by doing so. You're just being a natural human being. And you're participating in the process of law, of prosecuting the person that harmed you, even if it's death penalty. Even the death penalty doesn't mean that you're out of love. Your responsibility concerning love is just achieving a common ground and understanding and having any ill will. That's it. Once you achieved the moment of no ill will, once you reach the moment, the status of that you understand, then you've achieved the love that is required in you. And the Bible is clear. You are required to have no ill will to your enemies. Everyone. All right? So understand, man. I want to get this point across more than anything else. You are not being passive by loving. Passive loving doesn't mean that you should allow these people to mistreat you. Loving doesn't mean that you should stop protesting. Loving doesn't mean that you should stop trying to force legislation concerning racism. Love doesn't mean that you should stop speaking out about racism until you die. Love doesn't mean that. You continue doing that. But do that with an understanding, a knowledge of why it's happening. Of why it's happening. Having the why places you in the ability to achieve love. And that's the requirement that you have according to God, to be in love. And believe you me, not achieving love is more detrimental to you than the person and the people that you're not loving. And the Bible is clear about that too. Let's look at a few verses, then I'm going to be done. Let's look at 1 John, the 4th chapter. 1 John, the 4th chapter, looking at the 20th verse. And it reads as follows. If a man say, I love God, and hateth his brother, he is a liar. For he that loveth not his brother, whom he hath seen, how can he love God, whom he hath not seen? And last one, 1 John, the 3rd chapter, the 14th verse. 1 John, the 3rd chapter, the 14th verse. And it reads as follows. We know that we have passed from death unto life, because we love the brethren. He that loveth not his brother abideth in death. So these two verses, man, speaks to the detriment that is affected on you by not loving. These verses and most verses in the Bible, when it talks about hating, it always reflects on you. The Bible says if you don't love, you abide in darkness. If you don't love and you say you love God, you are the liar. It doesn't say if you don't love, well, that person must have done something really bad to you. No, it throws it into your lap. You become the bad person. You become awful. You become the liar. You become the person abiding in death. So not loving, not achieving the point where you have no ill will reflects on you. Reflects on you. Hatred has everything to do with you. To achieve love, you must look at you. And not loving affects you. So all of this stuff according to hatred, has to do with you. You must achieve love. You must achieve it. And you do so by connecting with these people, connecting with a common ground, connecting with understanding, not connecting with believing, not connecting with accepting. You don't have to accept the fact that that you are beneath them, that you are subhuman in their sight. You don't have to accept that, right? To have a common ground with them. You can understand their perspective. You can understand where they're coming from then. You can look in yourself and find something similar. Not exactly. You don't believe people are subhuman. But maybe you have a problem with homosexuals. Maybe you don't believe people are subhuman, but you get angry at people that slam on their brakes in front of you in traffic, and you blow your horn, throw up your middle finger, and go crazy with them. You don't believe people are subhuman, but you question Republicans and Democrats. You severely dislike a political party, right? Don't look for a match. Don't look for a match amongst these people. Just look for a common ground. I get it. Yes, you think I'm subhuman. I understand it. I kind of think these Republicans are crazy. I get it. All right? So I get it means you get it. I'm there with you. I don't accept it. A lot of your beliefs are wrong. I'm going to continue to fight you, but I get it. And because I get it, I don't have ill will towards you. I'm not going to pursue to harm you. I'm going to protect myself, but I'm not going to pursue to harm you. I'm not going to fight to take away your rights because you're trying to take away mine. I'm not going to try to run you out of your home because you're trying to run me out of mine. I have no ill will towards you. And once you achieve having no ill will, that's love, and you've achieved your requirement. And believe me, it is a requirement of yours to achieve love. All right, man. I went too long on this one. I went way too long on this one. You have to love, man. And you achieve this love through introspection and finding a common ground with these people. Common ground doesn't mean you like them. Common ground doesn't mean you accept their beliefs. Common ground is I too have something similar that makes me a bad person also. And because that's true, I have no ill will towards you. All right? I hope I got that across. I hope I got that across. Your requirement to love even those who hate you. All right? Gotta go. I say it every week, man. If these videos help you in any way, let me know. Leave a comment. What do you think? I want some of the people from my old area to come and challenge me on this, because I know what you guys think. Really? Jeff, you don't become a coon. Whatever. Let me hear what you think about it. And I'll respond to everybody. Secondly, share the video, man. Somebody needs to understand. There's a lot of racial craziness going on right now in the world. And there are spiritual people who walk in faith, who really want to know what is their responsibility toward these people yelling, threatening, writing expletives on their homes, not able to walk in the park, not even able to go to restaurants without being called names. What is their responsibility toward these people? Share this video with those people. And last but not least, click that bell icon, man. It will let you know when the next video has been posted. I say it every week. I mean it every week. I appreciate you showing up. I really do. My name is Jeff Staten. This is the Spirit of Sankofa. One love.